Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, November 8th, day after Election Day. I hope everybody may have gone out and voted. I think it's okay to go vote. I did. It's exercise of our democratic opportunity. Hope your candidates won, and if not, we can work harder. I don't know about working harder, but find the grace to elevate the whole electorate up to a higher level by putting in people who have a little passion for the people. That means least of these economics. We're talking that which has redistribution of the goodwill of all that are part of participants in the journey. So if you have voted for the first time, feel good, and if you voted times before, it's always good to renew your democratic vows, so to speak. It's a marriage between you and the populace, the government, not too much the government, but the culture in which we live, the community. And if we can use it right, it can become a common unity on the commons, which we all are part of. And the walk on the commons is sometimes an unfamiliar walk, but once you get your feet set straight, landed right, and you walk on the commons, you realize how much you have in common with everyone else. So in that sense, the Vox Populi, the voice of the people, Vox Populi, has spoken again. And one of the interesting insights is that you have a lot of talk about Trump and President number 45, and well, that's okay, but that all may be a diversion because what put Trump into office, he didn't start or do it himself. This is many years of underdevelopment for rural populations, for populations of the underclass, the underprivileged. That's been many years in making, probably 40, 50 years, and you've seen a skyrocketing, yeah, we say Walmart, but we mean the Wall Street. There's a whole difference between Walmart and Wall Street, right? So think about that. You've got these high rollers who become billionaires. They're all in the White House in the cabinet now. Then those are the high rollers of Goldman Sachs and Wall Street. And then you've got the minions and the not so economically privileged, the underprivileged, hanging out at Walmart, saying some greeter saying hi to them when they walk in the door. So if you had a greeter say hi to you and you walk in the door there, well, that's probably Walmart. And that means you're probably part of the underprivileged. Doesn't mean everybody shops at Walmart. That's not true. But it's interesting that you have these polarities going on where you've got Wall Street and Walmart. And then you have the people that walk the malls, the mall walkers. Or you could call them the Walmarkers. The Walmarkers and the Walmart. That would be the mallwarts. The mallwarts and at the Walmarkers. And they all stand somewhat before Wall Street. And Wall Street is like the big altar that capitalism worships at. And all the little people are supposed to genuflect and bow at the altar of Wall Street. And that would alter their dreams because they would not be on firm ground there. They would not be on common ground or on the commons. And these are insights that you may want to revisit here when you re-soak this in a little bit. This compost stuff here. You listen and you hear and then you compost it. So the first time you hear it, it's in your head. And the second time you hear it, it's in your heart. That's when it's composted to come on fertile soil. And that then can become a permaculture, a permanent part of our culture that can be sustained and sustainable. And that's through wind farms, solar energy, that kind of stuff. And while the minions and the underprivileged are standing at the altar of Wall Street, which is probably now 1,000 skyscrapers high. In other words, 1,000 floors high. Was 100 story? 100 stories is like 1,000 feet high. So think of that as 1,000 stories. They're like 10,000 feet high, way up in the whacked out stratosphere of Walmart, where there's plenty of fear. And when that bubble comes bursting, that 1,000-story mountain of Wall Street is going to come crumbling down way beyond anything that has previously happened in New York City. And it will be by imploding on its own greed. The seas of corruption will have fully blown into this big bubble which will burst, and that 1,000-story mountain called the Tower or the Altar of Wall Street will be coming crumbling down like the towers of Babylon, down to the ground. And when they get to the ground, you find the people around the commons who have common sense and have a common ground will be there to meet them and greet them and pick them up and wipe off the dust off their back and help them get on their feet. Not likely in the land of Babylon capitalism, if any little person happens to fall down or through the cracks, there's hardly anyone on Wall Street who will pick them up and dust them off and get them back on their feet. If you have stories like that, please let me know. We'll be glad to share them. But as far as we know, and that goes way back to the Great Depression, that kind of behavior of loving your fellow man and loving kindness from Wall Street is yet to be seen. So Goldman Sachs and Wells Fargo and Bank of America, the good old Bank of America, whose back pocket Ken Burns sits in and does a Vietnam documentary while he's eating out of the hands of the Bank of America, which just is a profanation, a sacrilege against the memory of the Vietnam War and the 60s in the Vietnam era, the student demonstrations for free speech and so forth. The first people they were demonstrating against was, guess who? Bank of America. And when you watch this Ken Burns PBS documentary on the Vietnam War, who do you see is sponsored by? And it gets loving attention. Ken Burns makes sure that is Bank of America, which they all wanted to bring down in the 60s. And that was one of the great protests of the entire free speech movement was to bring down Bank of America because they were profiting greatly off the deaths of young people in Vietnam, whether they were from American or Vietnamese or Laotian or Cambodian or Khmer Rouge. Bank of America profited off the deaths of millions of people. And that's what brings you Ken Burns' documentary on the Vietnam War. Now, is there any greater high crime and misdemeanor, any greater mortal sin or obscenity than Ken Burns telling us how the Vietnam War was, and having him having it sponsored by the Bank of America? Anyone in that Vietnam War or in the student free speech movement or the Students for Democratic Society or any of them would just throw Ken Burns out on his ear and have him do hard labor at Leavenworth for insulting the sacred memory of those fallen people who have died, so Ken Burns can stand up here and tell us how that history, how that story is or was. It's all a bald-faced lie, so don't believe Ken Burns. Ken Burns has burned up the truth and accepted instead, had a soul bought by Bank of America. And Ken Burns, I'm going to say directly to you on public access television, to you on public broadcasting, shame on you, Ken Burns. Shame, shame, shame. You have no one to blame but yourself. And you ought to take that Vietnam thing and take it out and burn it, because it's worth nothing. Because you have done soul destruction on millions of people by accepting millions of dollars from Bank of America to put on our public broadcasting system, your version of the Vietnam War. And we'll go into it more, Ken, but I invite you to come on here, right here in good old River City, Iowa City, Iowa. If you're hearing this, Ken, come on. We want to bring you to some kind of tribunal here about what you've done to a memory so sacred and dear as the Vietnam and the student movements and the 60s. So you have shame written all over your face, and you're a traitor to your own people. You're a traitor to your own generation. You're a traitor to the American people by accepting the Bank of America version of the Vietnam War. So black it out, man. Fade to black, because Ken Burns sold his soul to tell you about the Vietnam War by accepting money from Bank of America. Ken, you can't wipe it off. That's it. That doesn't go away. That's on your soul. You got that? Got that, Ken Burns? That's on your soul. You got to go and do some, get on your knees and beg for forgiveness, not only from our Lord and our Creator, but also from your own generation. And I guarantee you, it's going to take some time, and you might have to give up every damn thing you ever thought you owned. You might end up in prison for telling such lies and for such treachery. And you know what, Ken? You know what, Ken Burns? Not only was that desertion, you were a traitor to your own country. Not only desertion, you deserted from your own people, but you were a traitor to your own country. So that's life imprisonment, my man. That's life imprisonment. You can't get out of that. You self-conscripted into that script, and there's no crypt big enough to put you in. So Ken, consider the case closed. We're not going to hear your case anymore. You've presented your case, and the jury has returned a verdict. And the verdict is, Ken, you're guilty on all charges, from first degree to second degree to third degree to criminal mischief. You've sold out yourself and your entire country. Shame on you, Ken Burns. Shame, shame. No place to hide, my man. You got to live with that. That's your legitimate social memory. You tried to present a script that you profited on and you promulgated as our legitimate social memory. No, Ken, that's the Bank of America's illegitimate prodigy, and you are the illegitimate child prodigy of the Bank of America's bastardry. Period. Okay, moving on. But Ken, you needed to hear that. So, but people are standing at Wall Street, like the altar of Wall Street was the altar of capitalism, while you have millions of people, like over 40, 50 years, who have become indentured servants, poor people, you call them what you will, underprivileged, that's kind of a fancy word that some wonk in Harvard dreamed up because it's polysyllabic and it sounds pretty nice. Underprivileged. But if you know poverty, there's more than underprivileged. There's pain involved, daily pain. And that's not just being underprivileged. That's when you're privileged, you can call the other people underprivileged because you are privileged. No, it's way worse than that. So this has been going on, this welter, this, what you might want to call a cancer on the body politic of the American dream. This is the underprivileged, the poor, the working class and the poor who've had to carry all this wealthy people on their backs while they get nothing but starvation wages, and that's the reason they call it that, starvation wages, because it is starvation. Well, so you've got this underprivileged and this Ubermensch, this Uber class of capitalist billionaires on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs and their club, their buddies, the cronies, the capitalist, crony capitalists. And so you have this huge bubble. And the Wall Street's, they're breaking records every day. Now the Dow is up to, who knows, 23,000 or something. Just think of that. Only 30 years ago, the Dow was like 1,000. You think of that? Is that right? Yeah, the Dow was 1,000. And it's up around 23,000? Or could it be 2,300? No, it's 23,000. So you see how outer limits that sky bubble is about ready to burst. So that's kind of where we're at. And so we pick up ourselves and we march on. And in the sharing today, we're going to do a little understanding of what that means. But first, we're going into the season itself. We are now in the second Wednesday of November, and that is the 8th of November. We're moving into the second week now. I hope you had a good Halloween, All Hallows Eve, and even more so, I hope you had a very reflective and respectful and reverential All Souls Day and All Saints Day, Day of the Dead, in remembrance of their loved ones and our friends, our colleagues, our associates, our relatives who have passed on. This entire month is a good time to reflect on the shoulders on whom we stand and the gifts they gave us in our lives. So if you haven't yet, please write down on a piece of paper 4 people that you would like to have remembered who have passed on in some remembrance or reflection of appreciation. And that's 4 names. It's not that much, and you could each day remember them as some little grace or some affirmation of their gift to you. And if you have family members, there's a really healthy little reflection called 50 gifts my dad gave me. And you could, if it was a different loved one, you could reflect on 50 gifts my mother gave me, or 50 gifts my brother gave me, or 50 gifts my grandmother gave me, or 50 gifts my sister gave me, or 50 gifts my grandfather gave me. If you can remember them, but it's an exercise of experience of those who have passed on in a loving tribute and a memory of them. So this month of November is a time to reflect on the deeper gifts that our ancestors who lovingly gave us that and whose shoulders we stand on, a little reflection of a deeper nature. It's a wonderful opportunity to give oneself, but also in gratitude for those who passed on. And in that gratitude, that lifts our attitude. The first piece we're going to share is called Bone Mending. Finding lost bones empty of marrow. This is underground remembering. I wonder if my great-grandmother's femur was the same length as mine. I want to make a necklace from her teeth. Not really. I want my ancestors' bones so I can line them up and stack them into towers vertebrae after vertebrae, and with the blood thread of my life, mend them back together. And that's the universe within. And then that universe within becomes a nested reality. And so bone mending, having said a reflection of the entire month of November on for loved ones or relatives or friends or someone who meant something in our lives to us, reflecting on the gifts they gave us, the 50 gifts, you can always, make it 30 or 20 if it's too difficult for 50. But 50 is a nice thing to really reflect on who they were as members of our lives. So we'll read this bone mending again, only this time it'll go on to a second level, which is in the heart song. Finding lost bones, empty of marrow. This is underground remembering. I wonder if my great-grandmother's femur was the same length as mine. These things repeat themselves in the generations. I want my ancestors' bones so that I can line them up and stack them into towers, vertebrae after vertebrae, and with the blood thread of my life, mend them back together. So in the universe within, we carry their song within. And in that, the nested reality is intergenerational. It's in this world, but it's also in the spirit world. And when we pray to those of our loved members who are now in the spirit world, in the other world, we can reflect on them and meditate, and also we can ask them to pray and help us. They're more free in the spirit world to help us than they ever were in our lifetimes when they were on this earth or in this realm, in the physical realm. They are more free now to help us than they ever were in the physical realm when they were living with and amongst us. So please keep that in mind. They're freer now to help us. So like when we do talk to them and maybe share some praise or appreciation, we could ask them to help us because they're more free and able to help us now than they ever were in this time and when they're in the living time. And we're also free to free them up where they may be in maybe purgatory or somewhere they may need some help. But when we call their name with some love behind it, that vibration lifts them up as well into a higher understanding of the totality. So we're talking the big picture here. And when we talk the big picture, it includes the spirit world and the other world. Because we cannot have the big picture without that. This one is called Mother. Mother, you wait for me in the indigo twilight. When the first star, the wishing star, begins to twinkle in the sky, I wait for you in the indigo twilight, ready to sing the star song, ready to say the wishing poem, longing to know the warmth of leaning into you. I can feel the notes of the song, humming up from deep inside you, humming us back together, two hearts beating warm in the wide world. You wished for me on the star long ago. Before I was born, you said, and I wish for you now, that you know the vast peace of the heavens, that starlight guides your way. It's a very beautiful piece simply called Mother. You wait for me in the indigo twilight, when the first star, the wishing star, begins to twinkle in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. up above the sky so bright, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder how you are. And that wishing star begins to twinkle in the sky. I wait for you in the indigo twilight, ready to sing the star song, ready to say the wishing poem, longing to know the warmth of leaning into you. I can feel the notes of the song humming up from deep inside you, humming us back together, two hearts beating warm in the wide world. You wished for me on the star long ago. Before I was born, you said, and I wish for you now, that you know the vast peace of the heavens, that starlight guides your way. So we're into this month of November, and so the starlight is much deeper. We're beginning to move into deep space, way beyond the ionosphere. This is deep space Ion. This is the winter solitude. And the deep space opens up to us. Something as simple and as beautiful is enough said for that deep space, as beautiful as Mother. So traveling in deep space, dear friend, travel far, in and out of yon wandering star. You can leave your footprints there and move on to Altair and Aldebaran and Rigel and Rigel and Betelgeuse and all the great stars of the cosmos, and know that you're not alone, because, dear friend, as it says here, you wished for me on the star long ago. Before I was born, you said, and I wish for you now, that you know the vast peace of the heavens, that starlight guides your way. And as we're into this looking out into the stars, from a letter to a friend, when scientists looked with Hubble, they were more than surprised. The older fringe of the bang was defiantly traveling faster than the rest. It was supposed to be slowing down. Anyone of a certain age understands. Time moves faster the older we get. We are, after all, part of the universe. Universal law. In one ordinary day of summer vacation, there was time to ride bikes, hike in the woods with a picnic lunch, walk to the corner store for a loaf of bread for Mom, and sit on the bench outside eating a Twinkie and chatting with the friend who walked there with you. After supper, maybe shopping, or visiting, or mowing, or catching lightning bugs, a game, a book, some TV. Months pass now with not so much time as in just one of those days. Months pass now with not so much time as in just one of those days. The heavens know all about Hubble's surprise, and that there is not a moment to lose. So with feet gladly planted on Mother Earth, look up. Keep looking up, dear friend. Look up and keep looking up. Breathe in the spectacle, the wonder, the allure. Dance to the twinkling of the stars. Find the dippers they make. Listen as they call your name. Even when star stories are interrupted, drift with the clouds that march across a different sky as flying fairies or perching doves. It is no mistake. We belong. We need not shoot for the stars. We are already among them, are in their night vision. We are meant to look up, to witness what we are part of. It does us good. This is worth hearing this letter from a friend again. When scientists looked with Hubble, they were more than surprised. The older fringe of the bang was defiantly traveling faster than the rest. It was supposed to be slowing down. Anyone of a certain age understands. Time moves faster the older we get. We are, after all, part of the universe. Universal law. In one ordinary day of summer vacation, there was time to ride bikes, hike in the woods with a picnic lunch, walk to the corner store for a loaf of bread for Mom, and sit on the bench outside eating a Twinkie and chatting with a friend who walked there with you. After supper, maybe shopping or visiting or mowing or catching lightning bugs. A game, a book, some TV. Months pass now with not so much time as in just one of those days. The heavens know all about Hubble's surprise, and that there is not a moment to lose. So with feet gladly planted on Mother Earth, look up. Breathe in the spectacle, the wonder, the allure. Dance to the twinkling of the stars. Find the dippers they make. Listen as they call your name. Even when star stories are interrupted, drift with the clouds that march across a different sky as flying fairies. As flying fairies are perching doves. It is no mistake, dear friend. We belong. We need not shoot for the stars, for we are already among them. For as truth be told, we are star-born. We are already among them. We are in their night vision. We are meant to look up, dear friend. We are meant to look up and to witness what we are a part of. It does us good. From a letter to a friend. And as these star stories unfold, we may cover these, touch in with these again, because we're entering in the starry night. We're entering in the stellar realm here. Star Woman creates the Magellanic Clouds. Star Woman is a goddess revered in various forms by indigenous cultures across the planet. The Star Woman cycle is widespread among Aboriginal sacred traditions throughout South America. The matrilineal people of the Toba tribe in northern Argentina say that in the beginning, women lived in the sky and the connecting stars were their houses. Among the Toba, star women are 3 old women who live in a large house with a garden. They are the stars in Orion, known as Las Tres Marias. Here you can see one of the old women devotedly tending Orion's garden of new stars. Her 2 companions soar up gleefully on comet tails. High above their straw and sky-thatched house, they have a good cackle playing around with stray algaroba pods, reminding us to laugh often and not take ourselves too seriously. The Tobas also perceive a great flying yellow bird in the lines drawn between the belt of Orion, the Hyades and the Pleiades constellations. The Hyades and the Pleiades constellations. Nearby dwells the enchanting star woman, associated with the planet Venus. The Tobas describe star woman as a compassionate, beautiful maiden with long hair, bringing inspiration and hope to all. Through her timeless labor of inspiration and love, she creates the Magellanic Clouds by pounding the algaroba into flour in her celestial mortar. May the messages from Star Woman and her tribe bless you and fill you ever with joy, mirth, and wonder. And these star stories are beginning now in the new moon, in the new moon, and in Scorpio, and in Sagittarius, and into the full moon of Gemini, a month thus from. And these are the La Tres Marias, the three Marias. And so Star Woman deserves a second Pleiades reading. May it kindly bend to please the Pleiades in this reading. Star Woman creates the Magellanic Clouds. Star Woman is a goddess revered in various forms by indigenous cultures across the world. The Star Woman cycle is widespread among Aboriginal sacred traditions throughout South America. The matrilineal people of the Toba tribe in northern Argentina say that in the beginning, women lived in the sky, and the connecting stars were their houses. Among the Toba, star women are three old women who live in a large house with a garden. They are the stars in Orion known as La Tres Marias. Here you can see one of the old women devotedly tending Orion's garden of new stars. Her two companions soar up gleefully on comet tails, high above their straw and sky-thatched house. They have a good cackle playing around with the stray algaroba pods, reminding us to laugh often and not to take ourselves too seriously. The Tobas also perceive a great flying yellow bird in the lines drawn between the belt of Orion, the Hyades, and the Pleiades constellations. Nearby dwells the enchanting star woman, associated with the planet Venus. The Tobas describe Star Woman as a compassionate, beautiful maiden with long hair, bringing inspiration and hope to all. Through her timeless labor of love, she creates the Magellanic Clouds by pounding the algaroba into flour in her celestial mortar. May the messages from Star Woman and her tribe bless you, dear friend, and fill you ever with joy, mirth, and wonder. Ah, a blessing from Star Woman, creating the Magellanic Clouds. And go out some night and, dear friend, just look up. Just look up. Don't have to do a whole lot. Just look up and stand there for a little while. Just a little while. Just look up. It'll do you good. And it'll bless you with wonder. Yes. And there's a supernova, but that'll be for another time. There's a Velatropa. And this is seen through the Atlantis temple on the island of Malta. There is an Atlantis temple on the island of Malta. And Vela is a third name for Mother Earth, planet Earth, Aqua Terra. Terra is Velatropa. Velatropa. A second name, this may be back in Atlantis, was Bayami. B-A-I-A-M-I. Bayami. B-A-I-A-M-E. Bayami. This is a nuance. This is not by the logic of, this is inference here. Not deduction, but inference. It is called in the northwest quadrant of the supernova remnant of Vela. Vela, blown to bits, scarves scattered, remanifested in the northwest quadrant of her corner of the galaxy, and began brewing souls. She tossed her unbound hair to strain the solar wind and strode through the light years, collecting the burnished beams of 1,000,000 creamy moons. Into the pot-belly of pregnancy, she stirred her garnering from cosmic dust and star song, spot of sun and comet's tail, came the first damp palpitations of newly winged beings. Now they fly free, fluttering through infinite sky to lodge in donkey, goat, and butternut squash, in sugar pine, polecat, squirrel, and sometimes the heart of a little girl. That's Hearts of Space in the northwest quadrant of the supernova remnant of Vela. And in Velatropa, which is the first time articulated in a book called the Mayan Calendar, I believe it's called the Mayan Calendar by Jose Arguelles. Jose Arguelles actually took Velatropa quite seriously. So in order to find out more, please visit Jose Arguelles, The Mayan Factor. And that's his spelling of his last name is Arguelles. He was a great artist and myth maker and traveler in the star realms. A great being. May he rest in a good way. Out traveling among the stars. He was a great friend to Paco Votan. He was a great cosmic engineer of the Mayans who Jose mapped and traversed with quite a bit. He conversed with them, giving us deeper understandings. Not to be taken in by the Mayan negative practices of human sacrifice and blood drinking out of human hearts. No, we're not going for that, Mayans. But there are gifts that the Mayans gave that are worth traversing and conversing with. One is traveling the stars, as well as the gift of movement and measure. That was what they understood. The mathematics of the Mayans was just precise as heck. The Mayan calendar is amazing. They were into movement and measure because that's how they traveled. Time travel. They were lords of time, and they time traveled. So not to just put a firewall up on the human sacrifice and eating of human hearts by the Mayans. Move that, put a firewall there, and just move on the other side. Look at the Mayan cartography, as well as the mathematics and the space language of the Mayans. That's worth hanging around with. But leave the other stuff, that's evil. Just put a firewall there and just touch into the other stuff. All right, and that was northwest quadrant of the supernova remnant of Vela, was through the Atlantis Temple in Malta. So do a painting. Look up a painting of the Atlantis Temple in Malta. There is a painting by Kathy McClellan, 2007, called the Atlantis Temple in Malta. It's quite stunningly beautiful. We want to give credit here and there. So this is the generator of dimensions. What we will do is share just a few sacred language of Hermes, the Hermes heteronymous appellations, because we're facing the gods, right? And as somebody said, all the gods are out right now. So Oinustatos means most well-disposed and benevolent. Heteros is comrade of a feast, and that might be a black night. Mas Arios is a searcher. Ophelon is a helper, a profitable one. Philandros is man-loving. Philanthropy, see that? Philandros means man-loving. Philanthropotatos is most loving of men. This meaning also used of Prometheus. Philanthropotatos is most loving of men. Philios means friendly, as God of words. The God of words is Philios, friendly. Proxenon is patron. Prophoron is gracious. We're loving and learning a sacred language called Hermes, heteronymous appellations. Turpon is the cheerful one. Tychon is luck bringer in love, trade, art, especially music and athletics. Tychon, Tychon. Xenodakos is the host, one who receives strangers, like a festival in Achaia, the Theoxenia. Hermes served as a host to other deities in his festival, the Hermaia. So there was a festival to Hermes called the Hermaia. And these are obviously the Hermetic language. So the giver of riches is Plutodates. Hence, the purse full of gold, or according to Robert Graves, the crane-skinned bag containing the letters of the alphabet. Isn't that interesting? Crane, like a bird, the beautiful crane. Well, this is a crane-skinned bag which contains the letters of the alphabet, which is the purse full of gold, called Plutodates, the giver of riches. And the one who receives strangers is Xenodokos, with an X, Xenodokos, Xenodokos, one who receives strangers. Yes? And the Adakyrtos is tearless. The Adakyrtos is tearless in leading souls to the Isle of the Blessed. The Amietos is uninitiated, meaning probably misunderstood by Hesychius. Hermes gets initiated before his descent into Hades in Aristophanes. Peace. A proverb quoted by Hermes, by Clement, was Hermes Amiatos, teach your grandmother. And then the tamer of powers is Archidamus. As guide of the dead, Archidamus is the tamer of powers. Chthonios is chthonic, as conductor of souls. Also in a formula and magic spells, as Hermes associated with the serpent. The daimon. And erythonios is intensified from cathonios. So that's intensified from cathonios. So helus om is the whirler. The helus om is the whirler. And so you kind of get a feel. We're going to really get into this. We'll dedicate a whole program to the sacred language of Hermes. And see if by going through some of the appellations of the heteronyms of Hermes, we may get a full-bodied representation of a disembodied poetics of Hermes. So, in that sense, we got something really cool to look forward to. The disembodied poetics of Hermes, which is when we're facing the gods, we need to know the language. So this will be a little helper for learning the language. And what I can do is I'll give you these sounds and these names and these letters, appellations, and we'll spell them out and then see if what spells are spell binding and binding of the demons. In other words, we learn the language to approach and approximate the stars. We have to become star givers, star throwers. We learn the language of the stars. And that is Hermes Trismegistes, or better known as the appellations of Hermes and the heteronyms, which is different names. And that is quite cool. And most of us have no clue that we have this as our divine inheritance. And in that sense, we begin to learn again. Lukos means bright, clear. Neos means young. Paius means child. Phaedros means bright, beaming, cheerful. Pharistos and Furtatos means bravest. Philokertomos is fond of jeering. Presbys is old man or elder, Presbyterian. Sparganiotes is the child in swaddling clothes. Tetracephalos is four-headed. Tricephalos is three-headed. Explains us from facing three crossing roads. And according to the Native American tradition, the swaddling clothes of the child, when we think of the sacred child, we think of the child of Bethlehem. But no, not so, says Lakota medicine women. There's not just one infant sacred child in swaddling clothes. Every child born is sacred, not some child in Bethlehem. That's just one take. But that discounts all the sacred children born everywhere. And there are certain sacred rituals born when a child is born to show that sacredness and that beauty coming into this world. One is the umbilical cord, one is the placenta. The Lakota medicine women have this medicine, have this mystery, have this medicine. And it's really important for the child being born to be loved and folded in swaddling clothes and loved, not hit on the bottom and hit like the dominant culture, the doctor and the nurse. That's a cruel way. And would you believe, in the native medicine way, children were not hit. There was no corporal punishment. There was no beating of children. That was considered a very great crime. To beat a child was considered a very great crime. So I invite you to revisit the magical child in your own sacred clothes of swaddling clothes in your own manger, in your own Bethlehem. Travel all the way back to that moment in your magical cradle, the cradle of God, and embrace that loving child with love and sacrality, and you will begin to see how beautiful you truly are. And that is the beginning of that wandering twinkle star that your mom had before you were born. You were born upon that twinkle upon the star. That's what brought you to here where you are. The joy of the journey. And that we have just a little intro into the Hermetic language, which I believe we are now ready for. We're now ready for the Hermetic seal, so to speak. And over time, we will be revisiting the Hermetic language so that we can breathe it and get it in deep to ourselves. Sometimes along the way, you want to share something that of someone who lives a different life and who is surviving. And I have such a friend who lives out in the desert in California and near the Salton Sea. And I was thinking of him, maybe a week ago, and I put together this reflection on the life of people who live in the desert, the land of little rain, and this will be dedicated to the gentle people of the purple sun. The gentle people of the purple sun. Out here on US 50 West, this is the loneliest road in America. Out here we stop for frogs. Once in a while, every 6 hours or so, one crosses. And we always stop for desert tortoises. We're just a little north and just a little east of the land of little rain. This does bring a refrain when a Mariah wind comes up or dust devils blow on up from Rickety Gulch where the roadrunners play and those quick lizzies, those yellow-green lizards flit, flit, and run. Down some lonely desert arroyo where even the broken down windmill has no name. It just eases squeaks as it slowly rolls in the rafter while the raptors are in full display 18,000 feet high, spotting some promising prey 18 miles away in this land of little rain. Gentle people have migrated in from whatever chagrin they've lived in from back east, up north, or down south, or sometimes from the west. These are the land of the little rain people, exiled in the land of plenty. Now this is pretty far west, tucked in from the land of the golden sun, for a fortnight or two, yes, and into the deep Salton Sea and the depths of poverty out past the outback shack of Joshua Tree. The beginning misery is at the yucca plant, just past 29 Palms, lay this sunset town in a ditch, no rich need apply. Here the weather is hot and dry, it burns the bones off some men and turns those wrinkles into bronze-etched character of canyons. They carry as marks of distinction outlining the curve of their comport and the real breadth and knowing of their lay of the land. These are the inner ley lines of their biopsychic fields of their personal astrocartography, weighing and assaying their way of being. And as prospectors of the West, their grub stake is on their back and under their crotch, a backpack and a bike, and no one calls them friend as they speed by at 85 miles an hour. These itinerant ways are the clearest signs of exodus from Babylon. These are the Jesus people. They are Christ in the desert whose bloodline goes all the way back to Jerusalem. They are dancing in the desert of their lives to another time, a lifetime of survival, and the saguaro of hope. And dear friend, may the saguaro of hope surround you with a beautiful flowering in this autumn time, and in this full moon, may there be a gathering for you and your kith and kin. And may we, joy of the journey, receive one another in the green fire of peace.